Well, the good news is the Kraken finally started taking shots on goal when they were given the opportunities to. The bad news is, for the seventh time in a row, they find another way to lose. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where I gotta be honest, these are starting to get harder and harder to do, especially as the Kraken continue to lose game after game. Now, I'm still gonna watch every game, and I'm still gonna do a video after every one. I've gotten this far, I'm certainly not gonna stop now. But yeah, they are getting harder to get the motivation to record after the games, and I can tell based on the views, they're getting harder for you guys to watch as well. It's especially true for a game like this one, where again, not only do the Kraken find another way to lose for the seventh time in a row, but it really just didn't seem like all that interesting of a game, especially past the first period or so. I mean, you can let me know if you disagree down in the comment section, but even in spite of the fact that the Kraken get 40 shots on goal against a team who was on the second night of a back-to-back, and not only that, but a goaltender in Reimer who was playing his second game in 2 nights, the Kraken can only get one of those shots past him and into the net. Well, they do get 2 past him, but only 1 ends up counting, which we'll get to. And sure, I could get all angry and ranty every time the Kraken do something stupid to find a way to lose a game that they have every opportunity to win, which was again the case tonight. But, I mean, when you've lost almost 40 games of your first 55, the energy just really isn't there to keep having that kind of anger after every game. Not only that, but it doesn't really seem genuine to where Kraken fans are actually at this point this season, where I would say the general feeling is more exasperation than anger where we're at. And honestly, it seems like the attitude among the Kraken fans who are actually still watching games is much more of a, we're just happy to have an NHL team more than anything else. Still with some of that exasperation when they do end up losing, but more just enjoying the ride for this first season regardless of where it ends up going. Which is clearly more towards a first overall pick and not towards anything near a playoff spot. Still though, feel free to let me know down in the comment section where you're at as a Kraken fan at this point in the season. Even if you are one of those few fans who's left that has the energy to get downright mad after every Kraken loss. And again, if that's you, there's definitely a window to have that energy after a game like this one, where again, the Kraken did get 40 shots off on goal against a goaltender who was playing his second game in 2 nights, and the Kraken could only get 1 past him and end up losing 3-1. So let's just get right into the game. The Kraken, who are on 2 days rest, are able to press right into the Sharks net out of the gates and get a very good scoring chance for Shan right in front of the Sharks net, though Reimer is able to make the save, with a Sharks team in front of him who does look tired again on their second night of a back-to-back. That having been said, they are at least able to muster up the energy to have a response push back the other way to the Kraken end, where Grubauer does come up with a couple of saves early on, but it's only 2 shots that the Sharks are able to get off before the Kraken are able to push right back to the Sharks end, where they spend the vast majority of the rest of the period. And back down in the Sharks end of the ice, Geeky gets a pretty good look that won't go. Then both Blackwell and Appleton get robbed by Reimer on shots that come from passes behind the net out in front, but they just can't get anything past Reimer as he's coming up with save after save to keep the Sharks in this game. Well, not only keep them in the game, but keep it scoreless in spite of the Kraken best effort. As we get into the final 3 minutes of the first period, with the Kraken leading in shots on goal 15-2, finally one finds the back of the net. Unfortunately, it's the back of the Kraken net on the 3rd shot taken by the Sharks. Entering the offensive zone, Gregor drops to Couture along the boards, who finds a wide open Dzingel in the high slot, who the Sharks just got from Toronto recently, and again on just the 3rd shot on goal that the Sharks have had against the Kraken all game to this point, he's able to score from that high slot, getting it past Grubauer, who just has to be able to come up with a save on this one. It is a pretty soft goal that he lets in, and the Sharks now have a 1-0 lead. And for Dzingel, it's his 5th goal of the season, but his 1st for the Sharks, which would become a bit of a theme as the night would go on. Right off the ensuing faceoff though, the Kraken drive right to the Sharks net. Donato gets it to Geeky, who has a forehand shot defended well, but he's able to recover, get it to his backhand, shoot, and score from a tight angle. Just 9 seconds later, the Kraken have responded to tie the game at 1. For Geeky, it's his 4th of the season, and it has to be said he was due after a few of the games that he's had lately, not being able to come up with a goal, having a number of pretty good scoring chances, but he's able to score from a tight angle here with a nice backhand shot to put it top corner and in. Again, just 9 seconds after the Sharks score, the Kraken have tied it up with the quickest response goal that we've seen in a Kraken game all season long, in spite of a number of those going for opposing teams. The Kraken would press for more before the end of the first period, but in spite of them dominating possession through this first period and shots on goal where they lead 19-4 by the end of it, we do get to the end of a first with the score still tied at 1. The second period pretty much picks up where the first left off, with the Kraken pushing hard at the Sharks' end of the ice, and Johansson this time getting the early good scoring chance for the Kraken, though once again, Reimer is able to come up with the save. And then a little bit later, Appleton has a pretty big hit laid on him by Middleton, who is a little bit late with the hit as Appleton had gotten rid of the puck, and as a result, Lauzon comes to Appleton's defense, drops gloves with Middleton, so we get a fight, there's traded calls, and sometimes a fight like this, especially early in a period, can also be used to get the benches back into the game and get some of that energy going, though it really doesn't end up having that effect in this game. Sure, there are still 2 more goals that are scored, one coming up here in just a second, but pretty much the entire rest of the game, where the Kraken had pretty much been dominating and getting a lot of good scoring chances to this point, is pretty back and forth and fairly low event. Honestly, a pretty boring game, the rest of it, all things considered. I mean, you can disagree with me if you want. I'm sure Sharks fans like the rest of how this game goes, but yeah, this fight almost seemed to kind of calm the game down rather than get more energy into it. Though, I did mention that a goal was scored shortly after this fight happens. As Susi takes a shot from the blue line, it rebounds off of Reimer out in front of the net with Johansson crashing it. Jarnkrok picks it up and puts it in to give the Kraken the 2-1 lead. Right up until the Sharks challenge for goaltender interference, and it is overturned. And maybe it's just the biased Kraken fan in me talking, but I think that the Kraken got absolutely robbed with this no-goal call. Or at least the fact that it got overturned from a good goal. I could have seen it really going either way live action, as there is contact between Johansson and Reimer, and Johansson is a little bit in the slot when that contact is initiated. But I don't think that there was enough on replay to have it overturned one way or another after the call is made. Yes, there is contact initiated by Johansson on Reimer without contact from a defensive player as he swings his leg through the crease and hits Reimer just after he makes the initial save. But again, that contact doesn't come until that initial save is made, and you can make the argument that the contact by Johansson does cause the rebound to happen that Jarnkrok is able to pick up and then put into the net on the next shot. But by the time Jarnkrok takes that next shot, there isn't any more contact being made by Johansson in the crease on Reimer, and although there still is clear contact between Johansson and Reimer, Johansson's being pushed into Reimer at this point by the defensive player. So all in all, this is pretty borderline as to whether or not it's goaltender interference, and again, I could have seen it going either way live action, but I just don't see there being enough with instant replay to overturn the call regardless of which way it was made. Unfortunately, the refs disagree and pretty quickly come back with that verdict of no goal, and it's taken off the board, so we stay with the score 1-1. And then not long after that, but the Kraken lose a faceoff in their defensive zone, which is something they've been doing way too much of lately, and right off that faceoff, a shot is taken and it's into the back of the net to give the Sharks the 2-0 lead. Again, it's another Sharks goal now that you'd probably like to see Grubauer come up with the save on, but the shot does come before he can even pick up where the puck was off the faceoff. And when you lose defensive zone faceoffs as often as the Kraken have been doing, this kind of thing is bound to happen regardless of who's in goal. Meanwhile, for the Sharks, also for the second time this game, the goal scorer gets his first for the Sharks this season, and not only that, but with Scott Reedy scoring the goal, it's his first ever in the NHL, so congratulations to him. I just wish it could have happened against any other team. And even more unfortunately for the Kraken, who again, up until at least that Jarnkrok no goal just about a minute ago, had been pretty much dominating this game up until this point, at least as far as the momentum was concerned. They are just never really able to regain any kind of momentum throughout the rest of this game. And neither really are the Sharks, as the remainder of this first period, which still has about 13 minutes left in it, is pretty much completely eventless. I mean, there is a Kraken power play that does happen later on in the first, but that really doesn't go anywhere either. And we do get to the end of a first period, again, without really anything else going on, with the score still 2-1 Sharks. And the third period, honestly, is kind of just more of the same eventless hockey all the way through, with the exception of the fact that the Sharks spend the majority of it on the power play, or at least close to the majority of it, as they end up with 4 power plays throughout the course of this third period, and even start the third period with 2 minutes of power play, as Gord got called for slashing just as the second period ended. Fortunately, the Kraken are able to kill off that power play to keep the game 2-1, thanks in large part to Grubauer, who makes a couple of pretty nice saves early on in this first power play. But then pretty quick after it, Gio goes to the box on a tripping call. Again, the Kraken kill that one off with another nice Grubauer save. After this second Sharks failed power play, we do get a few minutes of 5-on-5 hockey that's relatively eventless. The Kraken do get a couple of decent chances to score on the Sharks net that Reimer is, of course, able to save. We get through the middle of the period, and eventually Gio goes back to the box to give the Sharks another power play. Again, Grubauer is the best penalty killer, and the Kraken kill this one off as well. And finally, shortly after this third failed power play by the Sharks, the Kraken lose another faceoff in their defensive zone, and one pass later, the shot goes on goal. There's a little chaos in front of the net, and the puck is into the back of the net to give the Sharks the 3-1 lead. The initial shot by the Sharks from the blue line does get saved by Grubauer through traffic, so it's actually a pretty decent pad save that he's able to make here. Unfortunately, it rebounds out to the top of the crease, where Gadjevich whips around 180 to try to find the rebound to put it into the net, and as he's doing so, accidentally kicks it in with his skate into the back of the net. The Kraken would end up challenging for goaltender interference, which, to be honest, there really wasn't much of anything there as far as goaltender interference was concerned anyway. But you might as well throw out a challenge to try to keep this a 1-goal game, and while there isn't a great chance of this being overturned, it already has happened once this game, so who knows, maybe the refs will find something and you can keep this just a 1-goal deficit. After a probably longer than necessary review, the refs do come back with the admittedly right call of no goaltender interference, so it's still a good goal. And for the Kraken, honestly, if they were going to challenge anything here and have a chance, if they could have challenged for kicking into the net, that probably would have had a better chance of happening. Still, though, with the way that kicking has been called, that's even more inconsistent, so yeah, I don't know that that would have been overturned either. And for the third time this game, a Sharks player scores his first goal of the season for the Sharks, and for the second time this game for Gadjevich, it's his first ever in the NHL, so again, congratulations, but really I wish you could have done it against any other team. And as far as whether or not this could have been overturned for a kicking motion into the net, ultimately it doesn't end up mattering, as the Kraken aren't able to score throughout the rest of the game anyway. The Sharks do end up getting a power play, again off of the failed challenge by the Kraken, but the Kraken are able to kill that off, and we get to the end of the game with the Sharks winning it 3-1. And honestly, I don't even know really what else to say about this game. If you're looking for silver linings for the Kraken, the penalty kill was very strong here, at least in the third period, where they do keep the Sharks out of the net on 4 power plays. Grubauer, at least on 3 of those power plays, being their best penalty killer, with a number of pretty good saves. Either way, it's a PK unit that has rebounded very well here over the last couple of weeks, after an absolutely miserable January and first half of February. Plus, on top of that, the Kraken were able to get a number of shots off on goal, having 40 in total and 19 in that first period alone. So they are, at least in this game anyway, taking those shots when they have the opportunities to, like we've been asking them to do for quite a while now. Unfortunately, Reimer was just absolutely standing on his head for the Sharks in this one. It wasn't even down to the Kraken just taking a bunch of shots from the blue line, as Reimer did make a number of pretty nice saves, and I think this was more good goaltending than the Kraken making the goaltender look good, which is also something they've been doing a lot this season. Of course, it still is frustrating that the Kraken got goalied by a goaltender who was playing his second game in 2 nights, but still, I think this was more Reimer's doing than the Kraken making it easy on him. Other than that, yeah, it's now 7 losses in a row for the second time the Kraken have had that kind of streak, as their first losing streak early on in the season did end after 6. So it's just that 9-game losing streak that they had in January that they're now getting close to meeting. Definitely frustrating from that perspective, but feel free to again let me know what you think of the Kraken at this point in the season, and we're going to start talking about the trade deadline here with a video coming out hopefully in the next couple of days, but pretty soon here, so love to hear your thoughts about this game or where you think the Kraken going forward in this season down in the comment section. And until next time, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching and getting through this game and this video afterwards. And if you did enjoy or like this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that I'd appreciate you using to support the channel. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and go Kraken.